What if I told you there is an European country where you can find a baby dragon living in a complete darkness and medieval castle, which is built inside a cave, and some of the world's most famous countries. That country is Slovenia. And despite of being one of the European small countries, Slovenia has some serious unusual stories. Hiding beneath its beautiful mountain, forests and lakes. So today we are counting down 5 things you probably didn't know about Slovenia. And trust me, the last one, it looks like something straight in the movie, in the fantasy movie. In the first place, we have Slovenia has a castle inside a cave. Imagine walking through the Slovenian countryside and suddenly seeing a medieval castle built directly into the sides of a massive cliff. That's Prijam Castle. But here is what makes it crazy. The castle is actually built into a cave. The natural cave behind the castle provided protection and secret passages, making the location incredibly difficult for enemies to attack. The castle also is connected with a legendary knight Erasmus of Pujama, who supposedly used the cave system to move around and obtain supplies while his enemies surrounded the castle. Today, Pujama looks like almost unreal from distance. It looks like someone took a medieval castle and pushed it directly into a mountain. And that's one of the reasons Slovenia can feel less like a normal European country and more like a fantasy movie set. It leads us to number 4, where we have bee. Slovenia is crazy in beekeeping. Here's something you might not expect. Slovenia has a strong beekeeping tradition. Bees are not just important for Slovenia's agriculture. They are deeply connected to the country's culture and history. Slovenia often played a major role in establishing World Bee Day celebrated every year on May 20 because it's a birthday of Anthony Jansa, an important Slovenian pioneer of modern beekeeping. And Slovenia beehive can be beautiful. Traditional Slovenia beehives are often decorated with colorful painted panels, turning something normally hidden away in a garden into a piece of folk art. So if you visit Slovenia, don't be surprised if you discover that bees are much more than just insects here. They are part of the culture, and that drives us to number 3. The famous Lipizzaner horses come from Slovenia. You have probably seen these arrogant white horses performing in shows. They are called Lipizzaners, and their story begins in Slovenia. The replica form was established in 1580, making it one of the European's oldest continuously operating stud forms. The horses are bone dark, often brown, gray, or black, and gradually become much lighter as they grow older. That's already pretty fascinating, but what's even more interesting is the connection between those horses and classical equestrian performance. Their training emphasized precious movements, discipline, and extraordinary control. So when you see Lipizzaner performing those dramatic movements, you're saying the result of a tradition that has been developing for centuries, and it all traces back to replica souvenirs in Slovenia. And so this brings us to point number 2, where it says the Slovenia has a baby dragon. Now we got the word one. Deep underground in Slovenia caves lives an animal that looks like It belongs in the fantasy story. It's called the Om. In Slovenia, it's often associated with the idea of a baby dragon. The Om is a pow cave dwelling amphibian with tiny eyes and an elegant body. It spends most of its life in darkness, and because it lives underground, it has developed some incredible adaptations to its environment. The most famous Slovenia caves associated with include the Pozana cave system. For centuries, people found these strange creatures didn't really know what they were. Imagine living hundreds of years ago, exploring a dark cave and suddenly find a powerful creatures that look like a tiny dragon. You would probably have some questions too, and this is one of the creatures that makes Slovenia's underground world so fascinating. It brings us to number 1. Slovenia is much more forested than you might think. When people think of Slovenia, they think of lake breed, maybe the Julia Alps, maybe Ljubljana, but one of the most impressive things about Slovenia is actually something you can find almost everywhere, and that is forest. Around 60% of Slovenia is covered by forests. That's huge proportion for an European country, and Slovenia's landscape is incredibly diverse for its size. Within relatively a small area, you can find mountains, forests, caves, rivers, lakes, water bodies from all different sizes in all different places, and even a short stretch of Adriatic coastline. That means you can go from alpine landscapes to Mediterranean scenery without traveling across an enormous country. It's one of the reasons Slovenia has such a distinctive identity. It's small but incredibly varied. So, how many of these did you actually know? A castle built into a cave, a country with a huge beekeeping tradition, a home of the famous Ripsard horses, a mysterious creature known as a baby dragon, and a country where forest covers around 60% of the land. Slovenia may be small, but there's clearly a lot more here than meets the eye. And honestly, that makes Slovenia interesting. If you're still here from the beginning, good job, and you enjoyed the video, subscribe because there's a pretty more surprising places and stories around the world that most people have never heard about. And let me know in the comment section which Slovenia facts surprised you the most. Thanks for watching. Thank you for your time, guys. Subscribe, put on notification bells. You can be notified whenever I apply a new videos. Comment where you're watching from. I love you guys. Take care.